As mentioned, the budget just a couple of weeks away now. Our political editor, Andrew Clennell, joins us now. You've always got the good mail on the budget. So what do you got for us this morning?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I wonder if they'll get a budget bounce because these Newspoll results, the last week has been a week of crisis. The PM's been front and centre of it. He's been at press conferences, he's been at the vigils, etc., and he hasn't got a crisis bounce. So will they ever get a bounce? They're sort of stuck between early 30s primary vote, which is a significant problem for Labor.
Why do you think that is?
I think cost of living's played big into it, and the perception is the government doesn't have the answers. But in terms of the budget, it's quite clear to me from the discussions I'm having with people that there will be a focus on young people, but they feel like they can't do too much because of inflation. But we'll see rental assistance raised, for example, I believe. We'll see some changes to HECS, which means people won't pay as much inflation on it earlier.
One. That's also a huge one that's bubbling away on the surface, isn't it?
Yes, but I've heard these are only minor tweaks. So at the moment they calculated it June 1, which means you pay it, the inflation for an extra year.
It's really complicated, but if you're paying it, you fully understand it.
The 7% an extra year, so it just gets delayed a year. So is that enough to placate? What is a vote shifting to the Greens? So let's face it, as much as they're battling the coalition, which is still stuck in the mid to high 30s itself in primary, which isn't majority election winning. The difference between 30 and 33 for Labor, and remember they won with majority with 32.5, is whether the Greens get, 12 or 15%. That's one of the battles here. Now, you might say, well, the Greens' preferences always come back to Labor. Not necessarily, but also the Greens pick up seats themselves. So I asked Murray Watt, the Emergency Management Minister, and he kind of confirms there will be a focus on young people in the budget.
Obviously, we want to provide support to young people. They tend to have lower incomes and are facing real pressures, particularly in the housing market and the rental market. It's why last year we gave a significant increase to rental assistance in last year's budget to try to help young people with those kind of costs. And wherever we've got the opportunity to do so, we'll do so.
Andrew, I think there's a lot of evidence at the moment that Labor is worried about the shift away to the Greens at the next election, but also to, independents like Lee that aren't, we're not fully aware of yet cropping up in Labor seats. I mean, the Teals are still, targeting mostly coalition seats, but, I thought that speech that Penny Wong made when it came to, at the ANU was, with a slight nod to a big voter bloc that's sympathetic to Gaza and Palestine.
Muslim voters.
Yeah, that's right.
A seat like Chris Bowen's, I guess.
That's right. Frank Carboni's always been the big threat there.
And then he never ends up running. But,
but he gave another hint last week. I'll see if it actually...
I mean, he'd have a chance.
He would.
Look, I think the Greens is seen as the major obstacle, though. I mean, they've already got, more lower house seats than we ever imagined they'd have, and there's a chance of one or two more, I think.